Good afternoon. This is Dr. Bill White again, and I'm going to talk about putting upper cuspids in the place of upper laterals, where people are missing a lot of laterals, and you have extra teeth in there. I mean, you can spare that without caving in the profile or anything. You can shape these upper cuspids into laterals, and they become very hefty laterals, and they can serve a whole lifetime, and they're sturdy teeth. I've got one case I want to show later on, about 30 years, where we had both upper and lower cuspids working as lateral teeth. So anyway, I want to show you this case is the one of the first ones that I really showed that I did. I had done it several times before, but this one worked out pretty good, and I used it in lectures years ago. So let me go ahead and get started on this and show it to you. And I'm going to draw on the screen how we shape them, and as I do, I'll look down and you can tell what I'm actually doing here. So anyway, here is the young lady that we did this on several years ago. Maybe there'll be one of the models that'll show the time and everything. She's got a good facial profile. There's no problem there at all. It's not dished in, it's not protrusive, anything, but she is missing these lateral teeth, and so we just slid her cuspids over, except they were already over a good bit, and we just moved them in, and we shaped these cuspids up into laterals, and the case looked great, except the cuspid is quite a bit thicker than the lateral, and so you have more dentinal structure in the cuspid than you do the lateral, so it has a different shade of color to it. In her case, it showed up quite a bit, but a lot of them you don't even notice the difference in the color. So anyway, it works real good. Here is the cuspid after we had shaped it and everything, and you can tell the shade of those teeth right there is darker than the lateral itself, and so anyway, it showed up, but it looks good. You can shape the cuspid to look almost like a lateral. It's amazing what you can do, but the difference in the color makes some difference. Here we'll show the young lady, and this was 1975. I do show that. So we were doing this actually before 1975, but this one worked out good, and I used it in lectures for many years, and I'm going to bring it back to you here. Okay, you can tell there's something missing here, this diastema, and when we get the cuspids coming over in here, it'll push these teeth together. It does away with the diastema. We didn't have to cut anything out of here at all to get this to close up. When the cuspids came in there, they moved the centrals together here in the front. You can see that. I think it'll show in excuse me, in some of our x-rays, though I don't have but very few x-rays on this case. Now here on this side we've got the deciduous second molar and deciduous first molar, and this is deciduous cuspid right here, and the permanent cuspid will be coming over in this way, so it'll be in this area, and one of them has a supernumerary tooth or a part of a lateral in there, it'll show on the x-ray here in just a minute. Now looking at the other side, the picture's not too good, but you can see the deciduous lateral right here, and this is the deciduous cuspid, and the permanent cuspid is erupting over in this direction. Since there's no permanent lateral, just the root of the deciduous lateral here, which the cuspid eats away a good bit, and it moves over toward the central, and you'll see this happening in a lot of these cases without upper laterals. So upper laterals are missing fairly frequent in different cases. So you can see the deciduous lateral here, and we've got both deciduous cuspids are in here, but the permanent cuspids are moving toward the centrals, and we'll show that just a second here. On the bottom now, we had everything. There was no problem in there. So on the bottom, I think we sacrificed a bicuspid to match up with this. Now this is the x-ray after we finished the case. And this is 1975. And you see the cuspid is shaped up like a lateral. And you can see the cuspid root way up here in the central root. And let me go back and pick that up again here. The central root is shorter than the lateral root. But this is the way the lateral, the cuspid looks when you get it. Now I want to show you, if you've not done this before, you need to trim this cuspid in 5 different places to make it look right. Now I'm going to just make a clear page here, and we'll draw a cuspid tooth as good as I can here, and it'll have a long root on it coming up in here. And what we do, we take a little bit off the side of each side, not too much now, and then we shorten the tip of it, kind of take it off something like this. And the cuspid is rounder if you look at it from the end of the cuspid, so you have to flatten it a little bit on the labial up here. So we flatten it out just slightly on the labial part. Now, as you shorten the tip of the cuspid and make it look like a lateral, and you will come up with a kind of blunt, like if this is the cuspid tooth in here, down at the end, and you shorten it in here, it becomes thicker than a lateral across this area, you see. And so to make this cuspid serve as a lateral, we'll have to look at it from the side. So if you take the cuspid, it's coming down like such. Maybe draw a cuspid here. Now, if I shorten it something like this, then the cuspid becomes broader in this dimension from the labial to the lingual than a lateral would be. And the upper lateral has to fit over the lower anterior teeth. So you have to come in on the lingual side of that cuspid and trim it a little bit like this. It's all okay if you make a little shelf where the lower laterals would fit, the lower anterior teeth would fit up against this. You can do that and just kind of make a little shelf or a point for a lateral. In other words, this part right here would be still there, the labial, but you're going to cut it off from the lingual side in here, and you shortened it in this area. So that's 5 different places that you shape the cuspid. You trim both mesial and distal. You trim the incisal tip off the cuspid. you trim the labial, flatten it out, and then you go the lingual and take a little bit out right in this area like that, so that the lower anterior teeth can fit up in this area, see. And if you don't, then this is broad and it'll hit this, and the cuspid will stay there, something like that. It won't go ahead and close over, so you don't have your overjet and your overbite correct on the case. But if you trim it in those 5 areas, and you have to do this a little bit to where you can make that thing look very, very much like a lateral. Now the shade of it, if it's there's a lot more dentinal structure when you look at the tooth this way on a cuspid than there is on a lateral tooth. You know, that would go something like that. And then if the dentin is darker, then it's going to look darker, and it's hard to bleach that out of the tooth, everything. So we'll go back to this. Now these cuspids right in here have been shaped up like laterals, and that you tell how much you have to trim off by the interdigitation of the case as you come forward with it. Now we took bicuspids out on these teeth. This is here's the lateral, the central, the lateral. This is a cut panorex you see, and bonded together, so you got a little extra stuff here on the back. Just ignore that. Now this is a cuspid on the bottom, and this is a second bicuspid, and the first bicuspid is gone. So now we get our interdigitation worked out, and this is the upper lateral, which is a cuspid, and you see that this is extending over the lower anterior teeth, so you've got overjet and overbite similar to what you would have on your centrals. And this, I just took this panorex here with a person biting together, so you see how much of the lower centrals were up in under the upper centrals. And by the way, you've got to trim the cingulum, or the marginal ridge, off of these if the inside of the upper central is you've got these thick marginal ridges. You need to trim them down, see, so that this lateral right here hits one over here and doesn't over here. It will turn, so help me. And so you have to do some reduction of those marginal ridges on your upper teeth. On Oriental people have large marginal ridges, and a lot of the Hispanic people from the U.S. kind of showing that people of thousands of years ago migrated from over on the Chinese side down the Russians and came across through Alaska apparently, and came all the way down in the Western Hemisphere. And those people show their teeth look like people from the Oriental side, or have shapes like that. And that's interesting too in doing orthodontics. But here it is after we have done the case, and this can last a lifetime if people will take care of them. And this lady may be able to get these these wisdom teeth in the mouth, depending on how much jaw length she's got here. And we've sacrificed, well, she didn't have the laterals to start with, and so we sacrificed the first bicuspid, and so this is 4 teeth that she's missing in here, and everything is forward in this, and that gives the wisdom teeth a better chance to come in, and so frequently we'll be able to save these. I'm not sure whether we were able to save this young lady's or not, but we try to save them if it's possible to do that. Now I'm going to go on. Here was the original setup on this young lady, and this was in 1975, and this is a deciduous lateral here, of course, that we took out, and this is a deciduous cuspid, so it was gone too, and so this permanent cuspid had moved over against the central, since there's no permanent tooth in there, and it closed the diastema. Now let me go back and show you. Remember, to start off with, we had a diastema between these two centrals. Well, when these cuspids came in like that, they shoved these together and did away with the diastema. You don't have to cut anything out on them. It just pushes it right in together like that, and it worked out good in that case. And over here, now you see this is either a supernumerary tooth or a kind of it must be a supernumerary. It's not a lateral, and so we have to eliminate that, and then this cuspid will come down and push this central back over here, and we'll shape it up into a cuspid shaped like lateral. So anyway, we'll go down. Now here we are close to the end of the video. It's not a very short video anyway. We have trimmed it here, and on the distal and the mesial, we went across the top, trimmed it off and polished it. We trimmed the incisal to make it look like a lateral, and if this tooth wasn't a little darker than the other teeth, I'll guarantee you there wouldn't be too many dentists that would recognize this. But there's a thicker root up in here than you have on lateral. Of course, the root structure goes up past the centrals in here, and so this person has a super duper laterals, and they'll last your whole lifetime. There's no problem with that. So anyway, that's the way they look, simply because they're thicker and there's more dentinal structure that shows up in the color. And you see the cuspids down here are a little darker also on that. And that's 1975 when we did this. That's another view of it. I'll guarantee you that if you flash this in front of a lot of people, they would not suspect that this is a cuspid. And I use this case right here to, when I would go talk to dentists who referred their cases to me that were like this, and I would tell them what I wanted to do. Some of them said, oh, they don't look good. They had not seen anybody that had trimmed them properly. So this is cut out from the lingual, underneath here on the lingual, and this tooth laps over, and you have overjet and overbite just like you do on anybody. And I would dare say that if this young lady takes care of her teeth all her life, she'll have these cuspids as laterals the rest of her life. I had one patient come back after about 30 years, and we did both upper and lower cuspids into laterals, and you could not hardly tell her. Hers were not, the color wasn't all that much different on them. But anyway, this is a good thing to do, and I want to recommend people doing it. Now we trim this out just a little. You don't notice it, and the lower anterior teeth fit right up underneath here on these cuspids just like they would if that were a lateral, and that works great. So if you have a situation like that, and you will have a lot of these, and sometimes I'll have somebody who's missing one permanent lateral, and they can stand to have two of them out, and you can do the other side. Now, it doesn't look very good if you have a normal lateral over here and you've got a shaped lateral over here. You can tell the difference in the two. So I like to have the same ones if I possibly can in doing the case. And so in this case, you see this looks like this, and then the first bicuspid serves as a cuspid. You do not have to trim the lingual off of it to get it to serve that way. Just leave the first bicuspid just like it is. It works fine. So you do not have to shape it up like a cuspid. Just leave it alone. And you take the cuspid, make it into a lateral, and then your central, and you have the overjet and overbite just like you normally do. And this works great. And I hope that if you haven't done this and you want to try it, it works fine, and I recommend doing it. And if you can, keep the wisdom teeth on any of these cases. I'm not sure. I don't have pictures going back far enough here to know. So this is the end of the video. We would appreciate you joining our group, and we have a lot of people that have joined it, and thank you for doing that. And I hope this goes wherever it is over the world, that people will be able to see what we did with these missing upper laterals, and you can do the same thing with the missing lower laterals. You can take this tooth, move it over here. You don't have to cut the lingual out of it here. And that way you just take them down on 4 different places, and you leave the lingual alone if you're doing the lower one in addition to the other. But most of the time it's your upper laterals that are missing. So I'll say goodbye, and thank you for watching, and I hope you get something from this. So I'll sign off here, and we'll go into another video.